Imagine a place where the trees look like umbrellas turned inside out, and resin as red as blood flows from their bark. Their crowns are like bowls open to the desert sky, and their trunks twist as if someone once tried to wring the forest out like a wet towel and left it frozen in that strange motion. It is here, on this shard of land in the Indian Ocean, that women live about whom legends were composed in the Middle Ages. The very image of this tiny patch of earth amidst the vast expanse of water creates a feeling of the edge of the world, the last dot on the map, beyond which lies only the void. The great traveler Marco Polo, sailing past these shores, called the Socotran women the most powerful sorceresses in the world, capable of controlling the winds and sending diseases upon their enemies. For his era, these words were not just a colorful description, but a serious claim. Control over the wind, illness, and fate seemed a sign of true power. This island is Socotra. Its landscape is so unusual that it seems like a film set for a movie about another planet. The horizon lines break off at the cliffs. The shadows of the trees cast strange geometric shapes, and our usual concepts of forest, shore, and road look entirely different here. Among the dragon's blood trees and desert rocks, painted in the pink and ochre tones of the sunset, a figure in black stands out, a local woman whose face and body are hidden by thick fabric. To a visitor, this figure might seem like the embodiment of those very legends about witches, but for the woman herself, this is merely ordinary clothing, familiar since early childhood. Between the ancient mysticism felt by Marco Polo and the reality of total isolation lies the life of modern Socotran women. They wake up, go to sleep, raise children, and tend to their homes, not because they were written about in a traveler's diary, but because it has always been this way. This is how their mothers and grandmothers lived.
Existence without a mirror in the bathroom, without a refrigerator, without familiar electric light is not an experiment for them, but the norm. Light is provided by the sun and the rare flame of a lamp or fire, and the rhythm of life is set by day and night, heat and cool, tides and flows. Here, time is felt by the body, by the hot air, by the sound of the waves, by the way the shadow of the dragon's blood tree slowly crawls across the ground. By the way, before we delve deeper into the secrets of this island, subscribe to the channel. Why? Rumor has it that every new subscriber receives immunity from the evil eye of Socotran and sorceresses, while those who just watch run the risk of dreaming only about spreadsheets and traffic jams all week. I haven't verified this personally, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Hit that button. You wake up not to an alarm clock, but to the crow of a rooster. The first thought is not about coffee, but about whether there is enough water in the clay jug to wash your face and make flatbread for the whole family. Instead of the usual glance at a screen, there is a glance at the sky, the color of the dawn, by which people here also know how to determine if the day will be particularly difficult. This is how the morning begins for most women on Socotra. While in homes on our mainland, someone lazily reaches for a phone, here a hand reaches for a jug of water, a heavy bowl of dough, a bundle of firewood. Their daily life is reminiscent of stories from our great-grandmothers about life before the convenience of the modern age, only not in a temperate village, but among desert wadis and stone plateaus under the tropical sun. The word wadi is not an exotic term for them, but a designation for dried-up riverbeds where water occasionally flows and where one can sometimes find a little more moisture and shade.
Comfort is measured not by the amount of technology, but by whether water was obtained today and whether the children and goats survived the heat. If for us a good day is when everything went according to plan, here a good day is one where no one got sick and supplies did not reach a critical low. The washing machine is replaced by stones at the creek, where laundry is beaten and rinsed by hand. This labor cannot be put off until tomorrow because of fatigue. Clothes get dirty every day, and cleanliness is not a question of aesthetics, but often of health. The supermarket is one's own yard with goats and a rare shop in a coastal village, where men drive a jeep once a week for rice, sugar, and tea. For a woman, the day of departure is always a day of anxiety and expectation. The road can be difficult, and supplies for the entire week depend on the result. The main value is water. This word sounds in conversations like work, money, or health does for us. Without it, no other business will take place. Girls and women walk for hours for it, carrying heavy plastic jerry cans on their heads or shoulders, much like our ancestors once carried yokes with buckets. The weight of these cans is felt not only in the shoulders, but also in the choice of what can be afforded today, an extra scoop to wash hair, or better to save it for cooking. But if the well in an old village was a place for news, here every source is a strategic object on which the family's survival depends. It is not joked about, it is not discussed lightly, it is thought about in advance when planning the day. The land is stony and dry, vegetables and fruits are a luxury. Where we are used to seeing garden beds and greenery, here there are often only stones and thorns. Therefore, any fruit that reaches the table is perceived as a gift. The basis of the diet is rice, flatbread made from imported flour, and goat meat.
The monotony of the menu is compensated by the ability to cook these simple products so that children wait for food with interest, and not just as a necessity. Meat is not eaten every day, but on holidays when a goat is slaughtered. The decision to slaughter a goat is an event behind which lies a whole chain of considerations. How many animals are left in the herd? What days lie ahead? Can we afford such a luxury now? Cooking is done on an open fire, indoors or in the yard, and the smoke from the hearth permeates clothes, hair, walls, becoming the scent of home. This smell is remembered more strongly than any expensive perfume, and years later, it can instantly return thoughts to childhood. There is almost no furniture. The family sleeps on mats and thin mattresses, which are rolled up in the morning, freeing up space. A room easily turns from a bedroom into a dining room, then into a workplace, where they sew, repair, and sort grain. The walls of stone-clay houses are bare, cool. Leaning against them in the heat of the day means throwing off the heat for at least a minute. Some families still use natural caves as additional housing or natural storage for products. It is always slightly darker and cooler in the cave than outside, and this turns it into an ideal cupboard for anything perishable. This ascetic, hard labor is the only possible way of life in harmony with the island. Here, no one asks the question of whether they like such a lifestyle. There is essentially no choice, only the ability to accept conditions and extract the maximum from them. As one elderly Socotran woman told a researcher, "You can't be lazy here. The island doesn't forgive that. It gives you exactly as much as you made for it with your own hands." In these words, there is both a warning to the young and justified pride in a life lived, in which every day had to be earned. Attitude towards appearance in public space is subject to strict rules.
What is a question of personal preference for us is regulated here by an unwritten law, the violation of which can cost the reputation of the entire family. The question of what to wear is decided by tradition. A girl sees from an early age what her mother, aunts, and grandmothers wear and does not even think about the possibility of another choice. Going out into the street without the proper attire is an insult to all relatives. It is not just about what the neighbors will say, but how the older men, whose honor is directly linked to the behavior of the women of their house, will react. Socotran women in public are always in black, a long abaya covering the whole body, and a thick niqab with a narrow slit for the eyes. This narrow slit becomes the only channel of nonverbal communication with the outside world. By the look, one can catch irritation, joy, interest, but much still remains hidden. And this is in 40-degree heat under the sun. The heat that would send us into the shade and force us to remove an extra layer of clothing is for them a circumstance to which one must adapt, not try to bypass. The fabric is often synthetic, cheaper and more practical, but it means walking in polyester through the desert. The body sweats under such clothes, the skin does not breathe, but habit and internal discipline turn out to be stronger than physical discomfort. This dress code is not a whim of fashion, but a centuries-old code of honor. It cements the boundaries between us and them, between what can be shown to the world and what must remain within the family circle. A woman's face is aura, a sacred, intimate part that can only be seen by the closest male relatives, father, brothers, husband. For them, this is not an abstract religious concept, but part of daily practice. In the presence of a strange man, a woman automatically covers herself, even if he just flashed in the doorway. Showing your face to a stranger is to disgrace the family.
Therefore, it is strictly forbidden to photograph women. This is an iron rule. It is not customary here to argue for a long time about why. The ancestors decided so, the elders demanded strictly, and violation is perceived as a personal attack. There have been cases when tourists, shooting a landscape, accidentally captured a female figure in the frame. The guide demanded the immediate deletion of the shot, and sometimes it came to aggression from the men of the community. For guests, this seems like an overreaction, but in their coordinate system, a threat to honor is allowed to be met harshly. There is an ancient superstition stemming from the legends of sorceresses that through a photograph one can steal part of the soul or cast a hex. It is picked up by fairy tales, warnings, stories about acquaintances, and therefore a camera in the hands of a stranger is perceived as a magical weapon, a threat to the clan. This secrecy creates a halo of mystery around Socotran women. You see only a black figure flashing between the rocks, and you do not understand who is in front of you, a girl or an old woman, whether she is smiling or frowning. Imagination itself draws what is not visible, but reality remains behind thick fabric. Their beauty, emotions, age are a carefully guarded secret, and perhaps that is why the inner world of each of them develops particularly deeply. But as soon as the door of the house slams shut and the strange men leave, the black color disappears, giving way to colors. What seemed like a strict monochrome picture on the outside reveals itself inside as a firework of shades. The secret life behind closed doors is almost a carnival. Here a woman can afford a loud laugh, a free gesture, a relaxed pose, things that would be unthinkable on the street. The female half of the house, where the foot of strange men does not tread, resembles a shop of oriental wonders. Walls are hung with bright fabrics with sequins.
Everywhere there are mirrors and plastic gilded frames. In these mirrors are reflected not only faces, but also small family stories. Who gave this or that scarf? For what occasion a bracelet was bought? For which wedding a specific dress was sewn? Here women shed their black covers and put on dresses of acid pink, emerald green, dazzlingly blue shades, with lurex and sequins that sparkle in the light of a kerosene lamp. To us, such dresses might seem excessively bright, but here they are the embodiment of celebration, femininity, self-respect. Their arms from wrists to elbows are laden with heavy gold bracelets, decoration, savings, and an indicator of family status all at once. Gold does not lie in a safe or bank. It rings on arms, accompanies every step, every gesture. On their feet are silver anklets with bells. The ringing of these bells is heard only by their own. It is not calculated for an outsider's days, and therefore is particularly intimate. The face, hidden on the street, is carefully painted at home, eyeliner, blush, bright lipstick. And now imagine you wear black on the street all your life, but at home you have a real fashion show with gold and lurex. How do you like such a contrast? Write in the comments. Could you live in a world where your beauty is a secret only for the chosen few? Or do you want to show yourself to the whole world? And don't forget to like this video if this double life surprised you. It helps us find even more such closed worlds. In this seemingly simple procedure of applying makeup, there is much meaning. A woman seems to confirm to herself and her friends that she does not dissolve in hard everyday life, that she has the right to be beautiful. This is not just coquetry, but a way of self-expression and communication within the circle of her own. By how she dressed and made up, friends read her mood, confidence, even hidden anxiety without words. In the evenings, women organize gatherings reminding one of village socials or tea parties in the kitchen. They smoke hookah with fruit tobacco, drink sweet tea, discuss news, share advice. So, conversations flow freely, from domestic trifles to big questions about children, marriages, health, about the oddities of the male character. Sometimes someone shares an old tale or song passed down from a grandmother, and then the room becomes especially quiet. This is how knowledge passes from generation to generation. Sometimes someone takes out a drum and dances begin. Plastic, sensual movements performed only for female eyes. In these dances, there is no need to please someone from the outside. It is body language by which women tell each other about joy and pain, about dreams and fatigue. An important part of this closed life is the cult of aromas. Women fumigate themselves and their clothes with the smoke of frankincense and dragon's blood, that very red resin that flows from the trees. The smoke slowly envelops fabric, hair, jewelry, and the smell reminds them of the evenings spent together for a long time. This is both a purification ritual and ancient cosmetics. It is believed that the smoke of the dragon's blood tree cleanses the skin and preserves its youth. They believe in this not because it is written in the instructions for a cream,
but because mothers and grandmothers did so, and their experience is listened to here more than any advice from the outside. The love for gold, colors, and aromas is directly connected with the main event in life, the wedding. From childhood, a girl sees how the elders prepare for this day and imperceptibly tries on the future role of a bride. Imagine a wedding where the groom and bride first see each other's faces only on the wedding night after 3 days of general celebration.
The very fact that one can celebrate the union of two almost unfamiliar people for 3 days speaks to how important the institution of marriage itself is rather than the romantic story before it. A wedding on Socotra is not a story about love at first sight, but a social and economic deal, as with many peoples in the past. There is logic in this. In the harsh conditions of survival on the island, feelings are considered a less reliable basis than reputation and thrift. Marriages are often concluded within one large clan, between cousins, so that land, livestock, and property remain within the family. The clan is not an abstraction, but a real network of mutual assistance. Someone will help with repairs, someone with childcare, someone with animals, and all these ties are strengthened precisely by marriage. Parents play a key role, considering the reputation of the family, the thriftiness of the girl, and the solvency of the young man. For them, words are not as important as real deeds. How the girl runs the house, whether she can cook, is she frugal, whether the young man knows how to earn and maintain a household. Love, if it comes after the wedding, in joint everyday life. It is born in trifles, in how the spouse shares hard work with his wife, how she supports him on a difficult day, how together they survive the first illnesses of children. A crucial element is the mar, or bride price. This is not the purchase of a woman, but a guarantee of her financial security. Embedded in it is the idea that a wife should have her own support, independent of the will of her husband and his relatives. The sum of the mar is negotiated in advance and can amount to several dozen goats, a certain amount of money, or a plot of land. Negotiations around the mar are not haggling at the market, but a complex dialogue between two families in which both sides try to maintain a balance between possibilities and respect. These funds remain the personal property of the woman.
No one has the right to dispose of them for her, and this tacitly emphasizes her agency in marriage. In the case of divorce, which a woman can also initiate through the Sharia court, the mar serves as security, allowing her to return to her parental home not empty-handed. This knowledge makes her position at least a little more stable. She understands that even in the most unpleasant scenario, she will not remain completely without means. The celebration itself lasts 3 days and becomes the main event of the community. In these days, life seems to slow down. Household worries recede. Conversations revolve around the bride and groom. Other weddings are remembered. Men and women celebrate separately. Each holiday has its own rhythm, its own songs, its own system of gestures and jokes understood only by its circle. The female half turns into a sea of color and gold, the sounds of drums and songs. The bride, in the most luxurious dress and jewelry, sits in a place of honor, accepting congratulations. For her, this is not only joy, but also a test, to be the center of attention for several days in a row, not letting emotions go beyond what is permitted. After the wedding, her status rises sharply. From a modest daughter, she turns into the mistress of her husband's house, the manager of the budget, and the keeper of the hearth. She is now looked upon as a person responsible for the inner world of the house, for order, for the mood of the children. Her word in domestic affairs is weighty. It is not by chance that they say here, the husband is the head, but the wife is the neck that turns this head. In this simple metaphor lies the recognition that real decisions are often made not loudly and in plain sight, but quietly, in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in conversation after the guests. It seems that this world is frozen in the past, but even modernity seeps into Socotra.
It does not crash down like an avalanche, as in megacities, but arrives point-wise, together with rare guests, pictures on a phone screen, new words in the speech of the youth. In coastal villages where tourists visit, one can already see girls who, while remaining in black abayas, slightly reveal their faces or communicate with foreign female travelers. This is a small but noticeable gesture, behind which stands internal work. The girl tries to expand the boundaries of the permitted without destroying them completely.
Through satellite phones and rare internet spots in the administrative center, the city of Hadibo, images of another life penetrate. Faces of people who live differently flicker on these screens. They ride public transport, study at universities, smile freely at the camera. The younger generation is starting to ask questions that their mothers and grandmothers would have considered seditious. Someone quietly asks a friend if it is possible to respect traditions and dream of a different job at the same time. Someone asks aloud why there, on the mainland, a woman can choose a husband herself. But the power of tradition here is enormous. It has soaked every stone and every family tie. The elders are not always ready for these questions, but the very possibility of asking them is already changing the atmosphere. The silence around some topics ceases to be absolute. Are they happy in their, from our point of view, golden cage? The answer lies beyond our usual understanding of happiness as personal freedom and self-realization. On our side of the ocean, we are used to measure well-being by the degree of independence, the number of opportunities, the ability to quickly change life. For a Socotran woman, happiness is a sense of belonging, the knowledge that you are an important part of the clan, that you will be protected, taken care of, and your children will grow up among loving relatives.